Have you ever been in a conversation where you said something like, I studied during 3 hours, and even though the person understood you, you suddenly felt that something about your sentence sounded just a little bit unnatural? Like it was almost correct, but not quite what a native speaker would say.
Oh, wow. That feeling is honestly the worst because you're not completely wrong, but you're also not completely right, and you don't even know how to fix it.
Exactly. And that's why this mistake is so dangerous, because it doesn't stop communication, but it does stop you from sounding natural, fluent, and confident.
And let me guess, this is about during and for, right?
Yes, two tiny words, but they confuse millions of English learners around the world.
And honestly, I've been confused about them for a long time because both of them are about time, so they feel very similar in my mind.
That's exactly the problem. They look similar, but they are used in completely different ways.
So today, we're going to fix this confusion once and for all, right?
Yes, and not just explain it, but help you feel the difference so you can use it naturally in real life without thinking too much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ABC English, the place where you don't just learn English, but you learn how to actually use English in real-life conversations in a natural, confident, and relaxed way.
Yes, and I'm Vina, and today I'm really excited because this is one of those topics that seems small but can make a big difference in how natural your English sounds.
And I'm Henry, and I'll be learning with you today, asking questions, making mistakes, and hopefully improving together with all of you.
So, in today's episode, we are going to explore the difference between during and for in a very practical and conversational way.
Which means not just grammar rules.
Exactly, but real-life examples, stories, conversations, and situations that you can imagine yourself in.
So by the end of this episode, you will understand the difference clearly, stop making common mistakes, and feel more confident speaking English.
Before we explain anything, let's test your intuition.
Yes, don't overthink, just feel which one sounds better.
Which sentence is correct? A, was working during 5 hours yesterday. B, was working for 5 hours yesterday.
I think it's B, but I'm not 100% confident.
That's perfect, because if you're unsure, it means you're exactly in the right place to learn.
Let me share something that happened to me recently, and I think many learners will relate to this. So, I was in an online meeting speaking English with colleagues, and I wanted to explain how long I worked on a project. And I said very confidently, I worked during 3 hours on this project. And everyone understood me, nobody said anything, but one colleague later messaged me privately and said, Hey Henry, just a small correction. We usually say for 3 hours, not during 3 hours. And honestly, I felt a little embarrassed. Not because I made a mistake, but because I thought I was correct.
And that's such an important moment in learning, because those small corrections are what help you grow.
Yes, and it made me realize I don't actually understand the difference. I'm just guessing.
Let's start with for, and let's really understand it deeply. When you use for, you are focusing on the length of time that something continues. You are answering the question, how long did it happen?
So it's like measuring time?
Exactly. You are measuring the duration of an action. Let's look at detailed examples. I studied for 3 hours, which means the total time of my study was 3 hours. She waited for a long time, which means the waiting continued for a period. They lived in that city for 10 years, which shows the duration of their life there.
So for is like a timeline showing how long something lasts.
Yes, that's a great way to think about it. Now let's explore during, and this is where many learners get confused. During does not talk about how long something happens. Instead, it tells us that something happens inside a specific period, event, or moment.
So it's like something happens within something else?
Exactly. Examples: I received a phone call during the meeting. She fell asleep during the movie. He got sick during the trip.
So during needs something like an event, not a number.
Yes, and that's the key difference. So now let's do one full, detailed role play where we use during and for naturally in a real-life situation.
Hey Vina, I want to tell you about my day yesterday because it was really long and quite stressful, and I think I might still make mistakes with during and for. So maybe you can help me correct them as I speak.
Of course, Henry. That's the perfect way to learn. Just speak naturally, don't worry about mistakes, and I'll guide you step by step so you can improve while speaking.
All right. So yesterday I worked during 8 hours at the office, and by the end of the day I felt extremely tired and mentally exhausted.
That's a very good sentence, and your meaning is completely clear, but let's improve it slightly so it sounds natural to native speakers. Instead of saying during 8 hours, you should say, I worked for 8 hours. Because here, you are talking about the duration or the length of time, so we use for.
Ah, okay. I understand now. So I should say, yesterday I worked for 8 hours at the office, and during the morning meeting, my manager asked me to present my project in front of the whole team.
Excellent correction. That sentence is now very natural, and I love how you used both for and during correctly. You used for to describe how long you worked, and during to describe something that happened inside a specific event, the meeting.
Yes, I think I'm starting to understand it better now. So after work, I went to a cafe with my friends, and we talked during 2 hours about our plans and our future goals.
That's another great example to learn from. Since you are talking about 2 hours, which is a duration, you should say, we talked for 2 hours.
All right, let me fix that properly. After work, I went to a cafe with my friends, and we talked for 2 hours, and during our conversation, we discussed our careers, shared personal stories, and laughed a lot about funny memories from the past.
That was beautifully expressed, Henry. Not only was your grammar correct, but your sentence was also rich, detailed, and very natural.
Thank you. I'm trying to make my sentences longer and more detailed so I can practice better. So later that night, I went home and I started watching a movie, but I accidentally fell asleep for the movie because I was so tired after working all day.
That's a very common mistake, and it's a great learning opportunity. Instead of saying for the movie, you should say during the movie, because the movie is not a duration, it's an event or a period of time.
Oh, I see the difference now much more clearly. So I should say, I started watching a movie, but I fell asleep during the movie. And after that, I continued sleeping for 3 hours on the couch.
Perfect! That sentence is excellent because it combines both during and for correctly in a very natural situation.
You know, before this conversation, I always felt confused and I was just guessing which word to use. But now I feel like I actually understand the logic behind it.
And that's exactly what we want, because real fluency comes from understanding, practicing, and using the language naturally over time.
Let me try one final, long, detailed story to really test myself and see if I can use everything correctly. Yesterday was an extremely busy and tiring day. I worked for 8 hours, and during the morning I had an important meeting where I presented my project. During the afternoon, I felt very tired, but I continued working for several more hours to finish my tasks. After work, I relaxed for a short time, and during the evening, I met my friends at a cafe. We talked for 2 hours, and during our conversation, we shared stories, laughed, and discussed our future plans. Later that night, I went home and watched a movie, but I fell asleep during the movie, and I ended up sleeping for 3 hours on the couch.
That was absolutely fantastic, Henry. Your story was clear, detailed, natural, and most importantly, completely correct.
That actually feels amazing. I feel much more confident now than before.
And that confidence comes from practice, not from perfection. So for everyone listening, here's what you should do next. Try to describe your own day in English, just like Henry did. Speak slowly, use long sentences, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yes, and try to use both for and during in your story, because that's how you will really remember the difference.
Exactly, because when you practice in context, you don't just memorize English, you live English. Let's review everything in a simple way. Use for when you talk about duration, how long. Use during when something happens inside a time period.
For equals length of time, during equals inside an event. All right, everyone, now it's your turn to practice. Try to create your own sentences using for and during and say them out loud.
Yes, because speaking is the fastest way to improve your English.
And don't forget, confidence comes from practice, not from waiting to be perfect.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video.
Subscribe to ABC English.
And share this lesson with someone who is also learning English.
We'll see you in the next episode, where we help you speak English more naturally and confidently.
Bye everyone.